even if you're uncertain, you should always sound definitive, right? Like when they came in and they asked me, they said, well, Richard, we have a client we want you to work with. And I said, what is it? And they told me, they said, well, we have somebody who thinks they're Jesus Christ. And they said, you've worked with people like this before. And I went, oh yeah, all the time. I'd always wanted a Jesus Christ because I read about Milton doing it. Milton walked in and he went, and there was a guy who thought he was Jesus Christ at Eloise State Mental Hospital. And the guy was going, and he's walking around trying to get followers, but nobody will follow him. And Milton walks up and goes, excuse me, I heard you used to be a carpenter. The guy went, yeah. And he said, do you believe in helping people? And he went, yeah. So he took him out on the east wing and got him to help the carpenters that were working on the side of the building, who are the last people that you want to tell you're Jesus Christ. Something about the carpenters was much more therapeutic, in fact, than the psychiatrist could be, because they would go, and why do you feel that you're Jesus Christ? And they go, because God is my Father. And I go, right. See, with me, when I went in, the guy actually had cut a hole in the center of a sheet, draped it over himself, and was reciting from Psalms, and reciting from all kinds of other parts. Actually, it wasn't even the parts that Jesus was supposed to have said. He was reading from Ecclesiastes, which is like the most pessimistic thing in the Bible. Vanity, vanity, all is vexation of the spirit, right? I love that as her true optimist. So I walk in, and the first thing I start thinking is, well, I don't think that thing, like asking somebody they were a carpenter, I'm not going to remember that tomorrow. I want something that will stick in somebody's mind for the rest of their life. So as I was driving home, I saw a hardware store, and that's where it started. I went ding, 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 because I went in and I said, nails, I need nails. And I said, what are the biggest nails they have? And they said, 16 pennies. Poof, they're this big. I said, I'll need one for each hand and one for both feet. And the guy in the hardware store put the 3 nails out, and he goes, what exactly are you doing? And I said, I'm going to crucify somebody. And good hardware man said, then you'll need some lumber. Isn't that cool? He goes, you'll need some lumber. And he got me this 4x6 about 8 feet long, and then a 4x4, and cut a little slot so it would fit right in there, right? And of course charged extra for cutting the slot, but I thought it would be easier. Right? And then I love that. And he goes, will you be needing a crown of thorns? And I said, why do you ask? I said, you don't have that here, do you? And he said, no, he said, but my wife owns a flower shop 2 doors down. And he said, we could cut the roses off, and we could tie you one of those things up with a little wire. And I said, cool. Because see, Good Friday was coming up. That's what got this whole thing in my mind. I don't know if you guys read the story, but it was pretty good for everybody but Jesus, right? Because, Jews look at it differently. Our thing is Friday is kill the boy day, and Sunday is hide the body day. They go, Jesus Christ, there's no body. Right? And now people have written books saying it was all on mushrooms, It's not documented well enough. Well, who cares? Enough people believe it to make it worthwhile. But they should read the book. It doesn't say anything about going out and killing everybody. The Old Testament says stuff like that. It says, and then the Jews looked at the land of milk and honey, and they went down and slaughtered the Canaanites. Right? They said, excuse that, this land belongs to us. Sounds like America to me. We were always going places. You guys were even worse. You went, this is an uncivilized country. We'll go in and take it over. And we'll make everybody British citizens. You're now all members of the empire. That gives you the right to do what we say. Oh, by the way, we want to take your wealth and ship it home. Do you mind? See, America, we did things like we would go in and we'd go, we've come here to save you. Right? And then we build military bases all over the place, take all the best land. And even Cuba, the best part of Cuba is Guantanamo Bay, without a doubt. Right? And what do? They build a big military base there, and they won't give it back. I still think if we got mad at Kuwait, this guy stole, from Iraq, stole the whole damn country, right? He went, there's no country there. No, there wasn't, It was part of my country, Well, we just brought it back to home, We called it what it really is. Of course, we stole everything that was there, and in the process, when they pulled out, they decided to pollute the air all over the earth. That's kind of a stingy, cheap response, don't you think? It took them 6 months to put out the fire, spewing hydrocarbons into the sky, right? And this guy's still ruler of that country. But people who are doing bad things to you shouldn't be you. You should lighten the fuck up, you know? You really should. If you don't start having fun when you're young, when you get older and figure it out, that you can have fun doing anything. People play checkers, for Christ's sake, and enjoy themselves. And I've never understood the game. You take this and go, ding, 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 ding. And they go, aha, I hopped over more of your things than you hopped over of mine. And I go, wow, what a thrill. You know, to me, you know, it's like, you know, they try to hop over my checkers. I pull out a .44 mag and blow their checkers away, right? But for some reason they go, that's cheating. It depends upon how you define the game. You know, it's a whole new thing. See, to me, I went out fishing with the same guys again. They took me out again fishing, and they said, we're going out fishing, and they said, this time, they said, we want you to bring the marlin all the way in. They had more of a fixation on this than I did. They said, if you're going to live here in Hawaii, you know, you need to go fishing and you have to catch a big fish. So we went out, we hooked a fish. It wasn't a marlin, but it was another big fish. And it jumped up on the line, and it looked down the string at me, and I pulled out a gun and I shot it. Went like this and pulled it back over to the boat, lifted it in, and they all went, look, you missed the thrill of the whole thing. I said, I found that perfectly thrilling. Right. But it's not the thrill that they wanted. They wanted the thrill. They should do it their way. Say, it's not that you can make a snarling sound that's important. It's that you're willing to try, and that you make it an adventure rather than a burden. Look, that was such a little thing, and you made it so hard. Imagine what you're going to do with big things. Because if you can make small things really hard and really big, you'll be much better off. Trust me, in the end. Because what will happen is if you can begin to have a little sense of humor and lighten up about these things, you'll begin to discover that life is fun. All this stuff that's hard. You haven't had enough fun, I don't think. See, you've probably been serious about your fun. Right? Do you think it through before you have fun and plot it out and do it carefully? Or do you play with abandonment like you did when you were a kid? Oh, he's back again. Here we go. What happened to the confident one? See, all these patterns run systematically. There's not a lot of variation in human beings. And that's a shame because you're capable of it. You're capable of great variations in behavior. You're capable of generating millions of feelings that you don't. And the only thing that stops you is that you keep running the same thing. The reason I'm pushing the button is because it's there. What you need to do is to have a lot more buttons, right? And cover the buttons you don't like with bigger buttons that are better buttons. How do you do it? By practicing. If you don't practice feeling good, you won't know how to do it. It's just that simple. So I tell you what I want you guys to do. I want you tonight, this is the test. You see, because it's not just that I do things to you. You got to starting them yourself. You have to start being able to stand in the mirror, look at yourself and go, pow, like this. And down you go and up you'll come back again. You want an automatic response that takes you to the direction you're going. Until you can begin to generate the kind of confidence you want. Look in the mirror, generate a little confidence. And then think about something where you're doubtful. And then stop it. Just stop the feeling cold in its track and build a bigger one. Because the one that feels better is always going to win. If you have a choice, then you'll choose what's best for you. That's the one thing I've always trusted about human beings. But if you only have a whole bunch of unpleasant sensations to choose between, then it really doesn't fucking matter anyway. You know, then you should go to Germany and buy a black outfit, you know, and put on horn-rimmed glasses and go, everything is nothing, nothing is everything. You know, you can become a nihilist, and that's just no fun at all. Although it is fun to bring chalk dust around them. Chalk dust, it keeps the nihilists away. When they come up, you take chalk dust and go, like that, and they go, you have gotten this on my black clothes. And here they said nothing mattered, and suddenly something mattered. And I go, again. And then you pull out chalk and you go, like that, and you go, oh my God, you've gotten chalk all over me. Right, and then I like to write things on their black shirts too. That's even more fun. You do things like you go, kiss me. You know, I love Elvis. You know, it's hard to come up and go, have written across you, I love Elvis, you know, and then go, nothing matters. And you go, well, what about Elvis? And they go, this is not something I wrote. This was written on me. I am angry about it. Nothing matters. You see, everything has a paradox built into it. But you have to just start trying. You have to start practicing smiling, you know, for no reason, feeling good for no reason, getting up and start thinking about opportunities, something, and whirling the good feeling inside you. If you don't practice it, it ain't going to happen to you. It's like a lot of people think that they can marry as a virgin and suddenly they're going to become a great lover overnight. I don't think it works that way. You know, it takes a long time, you know, to learn to, you know, really enjoy sex. And it's especially good when you do it with the same person. But, you know, you do need some lessons along the way with everything. And you need some lessons where you just practice going back and remembering. Because when you were a child, I know you're 19 years old, but when you were a young child, you played with cardboard boxes with abandonment. Yes, there were many miserable moments. But if you collect all the miserable moments and pull them forward, that's what you'll aim your future to be. If you go back and remember having fun for no fucking reason, then you get back that ability to play and put it inside your ability to think. Then your conscious and your unconscious mind will become invincible. That's what you want. You want something, because confidence is okay, but invincibility you can get from two things: absolute and overwhelming certainty and belief in yourself. Because do you believe the sun is coming up tomorrow? It doesn't actually come up, the earth turns, you know. That's how it works. If I ask you, is the sun coming up tomorrow? And you don't answer out loud, do you know the answer? Yes? Okay. How do you know the answer? Yeah. Okay. Where's the picture? Okay. How big is it? About this big? That big. So, beliefs are over there, they're that big. Okay, and you know the distance it is from you. Okay. Now, that's a belief that you have and you feel totally certain about it, right? Okay, so how about we go one step further? We just clear the stuff that's off that screen and we build a new idea. You know where it is, but instead what I want you to do is to make it so that instead of the sun coming up, what you see is yourself being confident, being sure of yourself, taking steps no matter how stupid it looks, and finding out what it is you're going to do with your life. You're just at the beginning point. Growing up's the hard part because you have to go through all the bullshit where people tell you what to do. Once you're 19, you can start fucking with the rest of the human race, man. Finding out things, knocking on doors, and when they tell you there's nothing behind them, you'll go in and find wonderful things, and sometimes you'll find nothing. Some people will impart wisdom on you, and some people will tell you a crock of shit. But start by seeing yourself be the way you want to. And then take that picture and pull it out about 20 feet and put it right up over there. And if you believe the sun is coming up tomorrow, then you can tell yourself inside your head, surely if it comes up tomorrow, I can feel more confident tomorrow. After all, if the sun can be confident, you ought to be able to. You know each other, you've seen each other every day. Now, when you look at that picture, do you feel more confident? Now, double the size of it. Nobody needs little tiny beliefs. Make bigger beliefs. Make it larger and larger. And then step inside the motherfucker. So you see what you'd see if you were inside your own picture. Put the feeling on and then just fucking enjoy it. You don't have to do anything. Because if you have a sense of certainty and a sense of confidence, then when you make decisions about what to do, they won't start out with a bad feeling, so you won't end up hesitating and worrying about it. You'll start out being confident and then become confident about what it is that you want to do. Of course, at your age, you're not going to know what you want to do. We all, even the ones of us that thought we knew. You'll never guess what I thought I wanted to do. I was completely insane. You know, I thought at that time that what I really wanted to do was to be a college professor. I thought that was a great fucking job. You know, they made, the college that I went to, they made $20,000 a year, got 3 months off, right, and didn't work weekends. And if they worked in the evening, they made extra money. And I thought, wow, what a great life. And the college I went to, these professors worked not like at the university I taught at. We worked 4 hours a week. Excuse me, but I think that's coasting. You know, I wanted to teach more classes, and they said, no, 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 you have to go in your office and think. And I went, think? And they said, yes, go in your office and think. You know, and I said, what am I supposed to think about? And they said, think about things, then write about things, publish or perish. So they said, you should have never said that to me. I wrote 5 books that year, right? And then just to get rid of me, they deleted the entire department's funding. They didn't just get rid of me, they got rid of the whole fucking department just so they were sure I'd be gone. Because I have a policy that says challenge authority at all cost. So I was constantly going in and threatening everybody because I kept questioning everything. Because I wanted to know things. I taught kids how to use the meta model, and they went all over the fucking university. When professors would say, well, we can't do this, they would go, what stops you? And they go, you know, and they say, you will never do this with a chemical reaction. And they go, never. Professors got together and said, he goes. Get rid of him. So I went from making $15,000 a year to making $175,000 in the next 2 months. That was a big surprise to me. I didn't realize that if I didn't work at the university, people would pay me shitloads of fucking money to find out the things that I knew. And that wasn't military contracts, by the way. That was people like IBM, right? That's the International Brotherhood of Magicians. I worked for the other IBM later, but I didn't like it there. And every time I walked in the building, everything broke. I've built this magnetic field around me now that I have trouble. I have to get a new watch like every 3 days. It's like, I find this one's doing pretty good though, except the time keeps changing on it. Sometimes the time goes really fast and sometimes it goes slow. I have another watch though that I got that has a compass on it, which I think is much more useful. Because I don't care what time it is, but I want to know what direction I'm going in. So tonight, while you sleep and dream, I want you to take a deep breath and I want you to go inside. This is the last chance to begin to make both a conscious list and an unconscious list. What we've been doing here is installing ideas inside your mind. Like it or not, they've been going in. While I've been talking to him, mostly I've been working with you guys back there. Right? Because while I want him to be able to do something decisively and feel confident, I know that he'll feel more confident. As time goes on, it'll become irresistible. Because I know that with as much certainty he has about doubt, but I know if you don't learn to lighten up, it's going to be a lot harder road than if you learn to have a sense of humor. Because I guarantee you, shit happens, right? And if you dwell upon it, you suffer around it. I know people that had one bad thing happen and they felt bad about it their whole life. I know people that one bad thing happened to somebody else and they felt bad about it their whole life. Well, my brother, this happened to my brother. I felt bad about it my whole life. You know, that didn't help his brother. You know, his brother didn't even feel bad about it. You know, I mean, unfortunately, he had an accident. It was a bad accident. And, you know, and he lost the use of his legs. And he was in a wheelchair, and his brother felt terribly guilty about it. He felt that it was because he could walk, that it made him feel guilty. That's like somebody who doesn't drown in a boating accident feeling guilty that they lived and the others died. And unless you put cement boots on them, there's really no reason for you to feel guilty. You should instead make the best of what you have, and so should the other people. Because every moment of your life should be special. And if you hesitate to make it special, by the time you figure it out, you'll have less moments left. Doesn't mean you won't get another lifetime. I believe in reincarnation. But God knows what you might come back as. You know, you might come back as somebody really cranky. You know, you might come back as somebody who not only doesn't have hope, they live in some horrible place, you know, like Washington, D.C. You know, worse than that, you might get stuck in Parliament, right, and have to listen to that crap day in and day out, you know. We have the Parliament channel where I'm staying. I'm sorry, I almost passed out. I can go for that for like 2 or 3 minutes, but after that I start going, if they say the word "ithyu" again, you know, I'm going to go out of my mind. They always go, the "ithyu" here is, you know. Now, the thing is while you're sleeping tonight, I want your unconscious. Your conscious mind has been close enough to get my point. In fact, to get both of them. There's a yes and there's a no, and your unconscious knows what's yet to do. So while you sleep tonight, I want you to begin to plan a future that you want to be true. Because if you don't let your mind wander into the future and see it so that it's coming out bright, it's not a commitment. You don't have to follow that road forever, but at least it gives you the direction to head in. If you start to get down that direction and it turns out that you don't like it, then veer slightly to the left or the right. Because when you get down there, there'll be a whole new set of opportunities that open up. You know, it works out this way. See, I dated this girl, and I couldn't stand her. But while I was on that date, she introduced me to her friend. And I've spent 27 years with her, right? And we don't even know the other person anymore. We don't talk to them. We saw them once when we were in San Diego, and we both looked at her and walked away. Because they were unpleasant beyond comprehension. They might be them out there now. So I tell you what, I want you guys to come back at 10 o'clock. Bring yourself a nice short but direct list. What you need is to be able to make yourself be compelled at the conscious and unconscious level to go in the directions you want to go. You need to be able to set not realistic goals, but to set goals and then begin to see how you could get from the life you have now to the one you want to go to. And then when you start taking those steps, suddenly you're going to look up and see there's a whole new field of opportunities. So you may never go there. You may go someplace that you don't even suspect now. That's typically the way it works out. Most of the people I know who went to college ended up graduating in something totally different. You know, and they got into things for reasons that had nothing to do with the fact that they're experts. One of the best botanists in the world got into biology because she heard there was better parties in the biology department. You know, John Grinder became a linguist because it was the only slot open at University of California in San Diego. I went to UCSC because somebody offered me a free place to live. Psychiatrist said, oh, well, you can come and stay in my house while you're there. You know, then you won't have to pay any rent. You won't have to live in the dorms. It'll be cheap. I have a house that I don't use. And besides, he was going to India to find himself. He wandered around India for 3 years, and guess what? He told me he wasn't there. And when he was in the US and he said he was looking for himself in India, I said, you're right here. And he said, no, Richard, you don't understand. Then he went to India, and then he came back and told me he wasn't there. I said, you were too. I wrote letters to you, and you answered. And he said, I was trying to find myself because I'm depressed all the time. And I think about how depressed I am, and I get more depressed. And I think about how unpleasant things could even be. I think about the world getting worse than it is. I think about my children growing up and living in a bad world, and I feel bad. Surprise, surprise. Well, you know, my thing is you can wish in one hand and shit in the other. And if you slap yourself in the face with both, then you're pretty stupid. On that note, I'll see you guys at 10 o'clock tomorrow. Have a nice night. You can learn to control any part of the body. And I said, well, you know, I can pretty much control my body in lots of ways. There's some things that I would like to change about it, you know, but I'm working on that. I want to change my immune system, make it do different things. I want to have my immune system stop attacking my body and start attacking things in other people's bodies. Why not? There's, you know, all the time you're generating olfactory things. You're generating magnetic fields, all of the stuff. There's no reason why your immune system couldn't move out into other people's magnetic fields and take your magnetic field and go in and teach their immune system how to be a fighter. I saw this Prince Hassim on the Big Breakfast and yesterday, and they literally took one of the people that works at the Big Breakfast and they patted him from fucking head to toe. Right? And they put him out, and Prince Hassim, who has no padding on whatsoever, is going to teach him how to fight. And he could just walk up to the guy, and the guy would almost fall over. He'd just go like this, and the guy would go like that. He knows how to move his body perfectly in relationships. But I just went into a trance, and I started looking at the other things that are going on. This guy fights on many planes. But he walked up to this guy and he looked him straight in the eye like this and he said, you look at my eyes, you never take your eyes off of an opponent's eyes. You look at him like this. And then I saw him start generating fear inside of himself, and the other guy got afraid. which is the answer to the question one of you asked me. They said, how do you get people to go into a deep trance? Fuck stacking realities. You just go into the deepest trance you can and you generate that feeling and start spinning it. And then spin it out and include them. Throw it into them and pull it out of them. And you can look at just about anybody. It doesn't matter who it is once you start doing that. That's right. And you can keep going down because you know there are things that you need to do to get your head on straight. And there are things in your body and things in your mind that your unconscious knows that now that it's time to begin to make changes. It's not the words that we use to describe things. It's the power of the universe itself. Because you are not in the universe, you are the universe. Anything that's in the universe is something that you can resonate with. When you pluck the string on a piano, all the strings vibrate, but the one that harmonizes the best with it, the one with the same overtones, the ones that share the same length, half a length, the same length, the ones that have the direct proportion, the same is true of your own neurology. If you want your neurology to sing, then what you need to do is to play the song inside your body and inside your mind that takes you in the direction that you want to go in. And as you spin that feeling inside yourself that's about healing, what you're doing is plucking the strings inside the universe, inside of other people. All of us affect each other. So that means that we need to be big and bold when we go in and pluck the strings of our neurology. When you vibrate your nervous system, you need to be able to vibrate it. So if you're thinking that you want to sell something, you have to go inside and go, I want to buy this, and ring it up so that it rings inside the other person. If you say, I have one of these at home, you've made the biggest mistake because you've gone, I bought this, past tense, right? And then they're going, well, I'm glad for you. Whereas if you go, I want one too. I always find the best salesmen go, God, if I made enough to buy one of these cars, it would be the dream of my lifetime. At the same time, they're spinning that desire because it's desire that propels you forwards. I desire for my clients to be able to get better. Some people wish for miracles. I make them because I demand them. Because to me, I know that as long as I think about all the things I've done that were supposed to be impossible, well, then you've got to be able to vibrate inside you. This is going to be easy. This is going to be quick. I'm not going to spend 35 years learning to feel good. I mean, that's just a waste of fucking time to start doing it for no fucking reason. Be happy. Everything's okay. Because it's really not willpower. I get the idea a lot of times when I've heard, because I've gone and listened to so many people lecture about, how to make your life better. And some of them are pretty incongruent. I was on a big lecture tour, and I always loved this one guy came out, and he goes, I know all of you want life to be a wonderful thing, and I'm here to tell you that everybody's life can be wonderful. And I thought that's the most incongruent thing I heard. And when the guy walked off the stage, he went, fuck, I'm so glad that's over. And I thought, why would you lecture for a living if you don't enjoy it? Say, if you don't enjoy what you're doing, you have to make healing not just something you do, but something you take pleasure in. It has to vibrate. You're going to make it that way. See, I don't care even if they fight me like this guy because he knows all these complicated things about how to feel bad, right? But in the end, something inside him is going to know. John didn't warn you, huh? I'm nutty as a fruitcake and damn proud of it. That's right. I mean, I'm the one that the schizophrenics go, what's the matter with you? But I know that, see, once the idea's inside him, once you plant that seed, that you don't have to go through a long sequence of things and worry about all this shit. You just need the mantra that says, shut the fuck up, and start thinking about things that would be wonderful. As soon as you have that picture, shoving that paper up somebody's ass, right? then suddenly it's going to be really hard to be stuck, you know, to go, oh, you know, now that I had a miracle, right, you know, and I don't know where your miracle came from, but I'm glad that it came there for you. And it would be a darn shame to waste it. Like if you analyzed it, if you went, well, I wonder how it happened. Some people say, well, it must have come from God. It could have come from any God. Maybe it was one just passing through that looked through and said, you know, who cares where it came from? Was it acupuncture? Was it this? Was it that? I mean, when clients come to me and they have serious life-threatening illnesses, I send them to everybody. I don't send them to one person. I send them to an herbologist. I send them to somebody that does acupuncture. I send them to, you know, people who do homeopathy. For years, I didn't even know what it was, but I send people there anyway, right? I have them go out and I guess I get them to somebody to do Reiki with them, somebody to do cranial sacral work, you know, and I send them to a good doctor that I know that if I can find those are harder to find. They are. If you need a doctor, his brother's a really good doctor. It took me years. And, you know, he watched me be sick. He never mentions it. And finally one day he goes, oh, by the way, my brother's a doctor. And I said, yes. And he said, oh, yeah, he's really good at it. And I said, thanks a lot, Lenny. But I went to see his brother. I went all the way to San Bernardino, which is like crossing the Mojave Desert and then looking for somewhere where there's nothing. And he's in the middle of nowhere, but he's a really good guy, and he really knows everything. Because I went out on the internet and found things that, for my wife, that, you know, the guy was the best in the world, supposedly, on E-burst transmyelitis. And I tried to call him on the phone, and he was impossible to reach, you know, and I wanted to make an appointment. They said they could make one in the year 2002. But he put out on his web all the drugs that were, you know, having really wonderful success. And we printed it out. I carried it around with me for 9 months, showing it to doctors. They go, I'm too busy to read that. You know, and I mean, that meant that they weren't curious about everything. If I had a client and somebody handed me all the latest information, I'd fucking read it. He goes, oh, that's that internet stuff. I said, no, it's stuff from a doctor somewhere else who's been treating people successfully. And he goes, oh, no, but it came from the internet. So therefore, I don't want to know about it. That's like going, it came from a book. Therefore, I don't want to know about it. You know, I mean, if the Virgin Mary landed on his bed, you know, and told him that they'd do a miracle for him and cure a patient, he would say, do you have a license? So what time is it here? It's 10 to 1. I've been thinking, I'm getting hungry. I didn't have breakfast. I woke up too late today. I've been hanging around you guys. It's starting to affect me. Especially this guy back here. We're all going to go to lunch, and we're going to come back in an hour and 45 minutes. I'll expect you in 2 hours. Or you could just wait to leave just because the rest of us got here earlier. You could just sit in here by yourself and contemplate your sins of life. You know, maybe your motivation strategy is a little on the slow side, do you think? You're one of those people that goes, wakes up in the morning and goes, I don't want to get up. And then you go, that's okay. You need to put a little fight in that system. You need to lay there and go, what am I going to miss? Great opportunities. I should get up. Wonderful things are out there. If I got there, just imagine if the most important moment of your life could have been the time you weren't here. The one that would have made it so that sex goes on 4 times as long and the orgasms are 4 times as intense and 4 times more often, even when you're with somebody else. Somebody once told me, they go, isn't it wonderful? Pretty soon you'll be able to go out on the web and you'll have a machine you can hook up and you can name any actress and you can have sex with them in a virtual reality. And I thought we already had that. Silly me. I guess they have no imagination. My imagination is actually a lot better than a lot of the experiences I have. You know, I've met some people who are supposed to be brilliant, absolutely, always absolutely brilliant, right? And when I met them, I had the imagination that this person was going to know all this stuff and teach me all these things. And I go in and they're just a fucking bonehead. You know, it's like you ask them questions about their own book and they don't even know the answers. You know, and then you go, did you write this book? And he goes, well, yes, I did. He said, I had a help with a writer from a publishing company, though. And I said, oh, so somebody else wrote this book for you. I'm going to give you a test and see if you know what's in it. Have you read the book? And they go, well, I read The Galleys. I said, what did you do? Look for typing errors? Because they didn't seem to know what was in it. I I've had this happen over and over again. People they get famous because they have a good publicist. But you see, in the business that I'm in, it doesn't matter whether or not you have a good publicist. People always come up to me and they say, you know, you could do seminars just like Tony Robbins. And I go, excuse me. I love that Tony does that, because I never would. I would not lead people across hot coals over and over and over again. To begin with, and when I looked at the hot coals, I would go, let's barbecue. You know, when I think about barbecuing, I think about Tad James. I go right to his website. I don't like dishonesty. It's just something that pisses me off. And I don't like stealing. I was in a store the other day here, and a lot of people shoplift in this town like crazy. I see it everywhere I go. And this guy took something and stuck it in his pocket. And I went, hold it. Right? And the guy looked over at me and I said, get that the fuck out of your pocket. You know, you steal it because the price of everything in this store goes up. And he goes, it's covered by insurance. And I said, and then they have to pay insurance premiums, and then the price of everything goes up. Plus, I think stealing is wrong. Wasn't it one of the 10 Commandments? I mean, it was one of the 10 Commandments before there were Jews around. Even the Chaldeans knew about this. That's where we swiped everything from. And I said, take that out of your pocket. And he said, what are you going to do if I don't? And I said, you don't want to know that. I said, you don't know who you're fucking dealing with. He goes, I suppose you're going to call security. And I said, yeah, to take your body away. You know. And I love that. They go, you and what army? Ha, 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 ha. I have an army. You haven't seen them yet, but when you do, life will never be the same. And he took it out of his pocket and he went, okay. And I said, and you're not supposed to steal anymore. I said, if you begin to steal, something will happen. And he said, what's that? And I said, suddenly your penis is never going to work again. And he went, that's the biggest bunch of crap I ever heard of. And I looked at him and I said, believe me. And he went like this. He went, I don't believe you. I went, it's too late now, guy. Stealing is wrong. It's pretty obvious. We tried to. I worked with an ad agency one time, and they got commission from some committee in Pennsylvania, and they had a terrible problem with shoplifting, and and they had all these. They wanted to do all these commercials, showing people the bad things that would happen to them if they shoplifted, right? Which I think is putting commercials out there telling people how and what to shoplift and when to do it. So I made the suggestion that all we did was just have radio spots that would come on and go, stealing is wrong. And billboards that said, stealing is wrong. And then others that said, shoplifting is stealing. Right? And that's all we did. And the shoplifting in Pennsylvania dropped 85% while they ran the ads. But then they stopped it. Government officials, you know how it works. But anyway, I tell you what we're going to do. I want to take an hour and 45 minutes for lunch. And I'd like it if you went outside, got a little air. Even though we're in London, there's some between all that stuff. I work in major cities everywhere, and I have to tell you, London is not as foggy as it's supposed to be. Everybody says that London is foggy, and I don't see any fog. I haven't seen any the whole time I've been here. I was waiting for the fog. I've been waiting 7 years now, and I haven't seen any fog. Seen snow downtown on the Strand, in the middle of September. I thought that was cool. That freaked everybody out. They did not know how to cope with that. It didn't stick on the ground, so that they forgot about it quickly. But while it was snowing on the Strand, everybody stood and looked up like, what's this? It's not supposed to snow. And apparently there was no summer here this year. It skipped over it, had it for a couple of days, and so everybody's going, we got ripped off for our summer. You live on an island on the northern part of the planet. You're lucky you ever get a summer. You are. If they move this island down a little south, but of course now we're going to heat the whole planet up, so you won't have to worry. But the poor people who live in the tropics are going to just be fucked, There'll be nothing but drought everywhere. Until somebody gets the idea that it's not good to put so much pollution in the atmosphere that you create the greenhouse effect, and that we shouldn't be killing ourselves with fluorocarbons because they're cutting holes in there. But people always go, wow, how can one little can of deodorant, affect, a planet? And I go, it's not one little can. It's all these leaking refrigerators. It's all the fluorocarbons that are going up there.
Refrigerators, can you hear that then?
Why? His refrigerator doesn't leak.
I don't have one, and everybody's telling me that I have to get one. So I'm glad it's now obvious. That
Well, you can get one that doesn't leak, too. You just take a little soap and you put it in some water, and you take a brush and you go like this, and you wipe it over all the little things in the back of the refrigerator, and if it's going making bubbles, then it's leaking. Otherwise, everything is okay. If it's leaking, you take a wrench and you go like this and you tighten it a little bit, you know, and or you wrap duct tape around it. Duct tape will fix everything. If I can't think of nothing else to do with a client, I put duct tape on it. That always works. I had one person who had a paralysis in their arm like that, and usually with a broken stroke, I just take the arm and I keep pushing it this way, and it just opens up on its own. Because I don't know, the arm is like this, the stroke is up here. I kind of thought that's where the hand was going. But I had one person, and I was not having any luck. So finally, I took their hand and I put them in a trance, and I told them, let go. And their hand went down like this, and I duct taped it to their leg. And when they woke up, they went like this, and they went, I can't move my arm. And I said, well, you couldn't move your arm before. And they looked down and they went, there's a duct tape on my hand and my arm. And I went, let's see if we can fix that. And so I pulled out a knife and I went like this, and you're not supposed to carry switchblades, but I do anyway. I don't let the government make the rules for me. I don't think that they're entitled to. They should make rules about them, not about me. It's okay to tell me I can't steal and I can't kill people, but to tell me what I can have in my pockets, that's getting a little personal, don't you think? You know, Robert Anton Wilson wrote a letter to the President of the United States on his 65th birthday, and he said, gee, Mr. Clinton, I'm 65 years old. Am I old enough to know whether or not I should be allowed to smoke a joint or not? Can I smoke a joint now? And suddenly he got a thing back from a doctor giving him a thing that says that he can buy medical pot. I guess this Clinton guy's got pull, huh? Isn't that wonderful? You have to have a prescription from a doctor to smoke marijuana. Now, if that isn't stupid, I don't know what is. They go, oh, but it has to be for medical reasons. Yeah, like you want to get high? That seems like a good reason. People have gotten high on all kinds of stuff, you know. They've been fermenting berries in little islands since the beginning of time. And for the government to say, no, you can't have that. You can have all the beer you want, but no absinthe. Right? You can't make alcohol out of that anymore. No. People drank it in the past and hurt themselves. Guess what? People hurt themselves driving. We're going to outlaw that? Are you going to have a prescription to get a car? I mean, where's the logic in this? It just escapes me. But take an hour and 45 minutes and meet me right back here. Okay? There's hypnosis everywhere. Just spilled some on his face. Now, I tell you what, take your shoes off, Lenny. Come in, you come and just lay. And I think you should put your feet at this end. Yeah. Are you comfortable? Mm-hmm. Is your head on the table? Because you're tall. Yes. Good. Because I don't want it hanging off, you know. Then I start thinking about axes. Don't look so fucking worried. I'm not going to hurt him. Jesus Christ, you know. The guy's been following with me. He's been with me almost every day of my life for the past 2 or 3 years, you know. I'm not going to kill him now. It's just I did some work on him, and afterwards I looked at him one day and I said, you know, I need to do some work on your feet, because the thing is once you fix something that's untilted, his back was kind of screwed up, and, you know, it was that he used to be a big executive at a big corporation, and, you know, and he had a clean-cut hairdo and had to sit up, you know, like that, and had to look at computer terminals for like 10 years or something, and, you know, all that bending over, sitting in that position like this, you know, pretty soon your back goes, ay, 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 and it decides to, like, start going, But see, whenever you have pain, you're going to move away from it. And then you start throwing other things out, you know. It's just like, you know, if you don't fix that one problem in your car, it starts leading to others. For example, I backed into a car and the bumpers got hooked. And when I drove away, it was really hard on my clutch because I was dragging this other car behind me. And, you know, and the guy was nice enough to leave it in neutral, though. I do appreciate that. But I did get this call from somebody. They said, I was told by the people at the restaurant that you drove away with my car. And because I left a note that said, you know, excuse me, but your car is stuck on my bumper. And I said, but I'm in a hurry, I have to go now. So I left a phone number, and he said, where's my car? And I said, well, as a matter of fact, I'm on my car phone. It's right behind me. And I said, but I had to leave. I couldn't fuck with it. I was late, and I had someplace I had to go. I said, I'm doing a seminar at this other hotel, and I said, so you can just drive by and pick up your car anytime you want. And I said, but bring a jack or something to get the bumper off. And this guy came over, and he came into where the seminar was, like that. And he walked into the seminar, and there was like 200 people in a room, and they were all like this, like that. And this guy walked in, and he looked around, and I said, yes, sir. And he said, I'm looking for Dr. Bandler. And I said, yes, I'm Dr. Bandler. I said, just come in and sit down, and I'll be with you in a minute. And so he looked at all the people, and he walked in, and he sat down and went like this. And I thought, he's going to be an easy subject. Quite cooperative. So anyway, I'll get back to you. So why did you come here at all if you were going to come late? What do you want? Why are you here?
Well, I just basically want to find a way of organising information and being able to present it.
What kind of information?
I'd like to be able to teach neuro-linguistic programming.
I don't recommend it. But if you are going to teach it, the best way to organize the information is in your unconscious. I mean, it's already pretty well organized, you know, the information. It's not like you really have to, you know, as far as I can tell, I organized it pretty well all along. It's just nice to keep up with the way we're doing it so that you don't find yourself doing old things you don't need to do. Curl your toes back. That's right. Now, bend your foot up this way, but keep your toes curled back while you do it. Now, keep them curled back and move your foot forward. All right, now move it back up. Now move it down. No, see, it goes like this, Lenny. It goes like that.
Oh, okay.
Right, but keep your toes curled up while you do it. No, God, Jesus, keep your guys can follow any instructions there. That's right. See, you got to have these things connected right. Okay, that's good. I just wanted to see where something was. It's like I say these simple things, up and down. Up is towards your nose, down is away from it. Right. So how is it not organized? Because see, I thought NLP, it's more than anything I've ever known, is really well organized.
It's not the fact that the information is not organised, it's me being able to organise it to myself so I can present it.
Well, if it's already organized, what's the difficulty, see?
It's being able to deliver it.
Okay, so what part of that do you have trouble with? I mean, everything I've created is step 1, 2, 3, 4 stuff. I mean, it's not like, you know, if you read too many other NLP books, you can get confused. But I mean, pretty much the way I've laid it out, things are you do this, then you do this, then you do this, and then you do that. And all you have to do when you teach is to install the right kind of strategy for people to learn it. You know, for example, if you want to teach them about hypnosis, you tell them stories about coma wards. That's what I always do. I walked into the coma ward and everyone was asleep. And they told me that they just cannot wake up. No matter how hard they try, they're in a deep, 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 deep unconscious state. But they think they can't hear, and I know they can hear me when I talk to them. That sort of thing. Oh, I'm sorry, you got lost, didn't you? It's a problem. Lots of people have it. Let's see this foot. You don't think I'm going to bend over, do you? Just move the fucking foot. Curl your toes back. That's right. Now, lift your ankle up. That's right. Keep the toes curled back and move it forward. cool. See, I don't pop the bones. I let them do it for me. Chiropractors work so fucking hard. I just can't believe it. They do everything the hard way. It's what position can we put them in? It's like rolfers. They put people in these positions, and then where the muscles are totally tight, and then they try to work with them. It's no wonder it fucking hurts. You know, first time a guy rolfed me, I sat up and I said, this is way too painful. I said, why would you do it this way? It doesn't make any sense. Why tighten a muscle and then try and drag your elbow through it? And because it just didn't fit with anything I knew about the human body. And he repeated as only a German could at this time. Actually, it was the son of a German, but he was just as rigid. Even though he was born in America, he said, look, there's only one way to do this. There's a right way and a wrong way. And I'm going to do it the right way. And I said, not on me, you're not. I said, I want to find somebody who can do this the easy way. As I always tell people, we can do this easy, we can do it hard. We're just not going to do it slow. So, what do you think you need in order to be more organized?
I don't know, when I try to organise anything, it's like I get just kind of pictures hanging around everywhere, and I'm kind of just trying to...
What are the pictures for?
It's the way I organise information in my mind.
Really?
Yeah.
How do you know what's going on then?
But if I'm planning something, I kind of just hang things in kind of midair, and I kind of know what's inside the picture, and then I put something else in another place, and then it...
Aren't you lecturing to people? Isn't that what, when you teach, don't you talk?
Yeah.
So what fucking good are the pictures?
It's not when I'm lecturing or
I know that, but before you lecture, don't you go inside your head and kind of hear things about the way you would say them?
Yeah.
Okay, well, that would be helpful, giving yourself examples. But what are the fucking pictures of?
It's my way of organising.
No, what's in them?
Well, the information that I want.
What? Like, give me an example. What would be in a picture?
A specific technique, for instance.
Okay, and so what is it? Written down or something?
No, it's kind of in a picture.
Kind of in a picture. What kind of picture is this? Like, what do you see? Like, so if you were going to teach somebody an NLP, so let's say you're going to teach people about how to do rapid inductions with submodalities.
Yeah.
Okay, what would be in the picture?
It could be me doing a specific technique.
So you see yourself doing the technique.
Yeah.
Don't you already know how to do it?
Yeah.
So what good is the picture of yourself doing it?
It's just a way of keeping...
No, it's just a way of what?
Of keeping track of things.
Well, how does that keep track of it? You already know how to do it.
Yeah.
So I don't understand what the picture is for.
It's finding a sequence for each thing, and the way I sequence things is by having them in a picture. But the other thing I get in the muddle is when I bring them all together and I kind of try and...
When you put all these pictures in the same place,
Yeah, and I kind of try to...
then there's how many of you? Like 12 of you doing different things at the same time?
Yeah, kind of. So it gets confusing.
It would confuse the fuck out of me if I did that. Has it occurred to you to just not do this? Sounds like really fucking mind-fucking. You know, I mean, the thing is if you know what to put in the pictures, right, then you don't need to make them.
Right.
You need to trust the force, son. You need to listen to what you say. Instead of making pictures of yourself doing 8 different things and then putting them all in the same place at the same time, I mean, you know, I'd be sitting somewhere going, blah, 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 blah. I mean, that I can see where that confuses you. It's a really confusing process. It strikes me as totally useless. I mean, what you need to do is to know what it is that the people that are with you need to learn. If you decide ahead of time, then you miss the very point, because then you might as well put it on tape and mail it to them. The purpose of doing a seminar is so you can respond as much to them as they respond to you. Not every audience needs the same thing. And you have to pay attention to them to see what it is they're responding to. I run listing programs. I go through and I tell stories about different things and list things to find out what they respond to. And when I have a group of psychologists, I'll go through all kinds of different kinds of patients, because I know what kinds of patients they're going to see. When I'm with businessmen, I go through the typical things that business people have trouble with. And I find out what the audience responds to, and then I'll teach them that thing. And you can tell what they respond to, because most of them will respond the same way. There'll always be a few that have other things, but you can pick that up as you go along. But if you have a predetermined order, it would take all the life out of teaching, and it takes most of the fun. Especially if you make a sequence of things and then put it all at the same place at the same time. That's like doing the visual squash on yourself, big time. You know, that's where, you know, the visual squash is this technique, and this is almost 25 years old. And I don't know what possessed me to do this. But this is the fun thing of just, you know, letting the universe tell you what to do. I had this client who kept going, there's two parts of myself. There's the part of myself, you know, that is impulsive and wants to do things right away. And then I have a part of myself always telling myself, be careful, slow down. You know, you have to know everything ahead of time before you do things. Don't speak till you know exactly what you're going to say. And they went, and I go back and forth, and they kept saying that. And I stopped. I said, wait a minute. I said, hold them both out. Look at them both. Now, very slowly, I want you to begin to pull your hands together. Slower and slower, and the closer they get, the more these images are going to meld into one thing. And then I said, then I want you to do is to take it, let it meld into one thing, and then pull it forward and put it inside yourself and feel it rush throughout your body. And don't do this no more. That's what I said. So, the next time you teach, what are you going to do? You're going to make all these fucking pictures? Good. You know, can you hear yourself when you speak? Then you'll know what you're saying. That's what your ears are for. Otherwise, your ears would shut off when you speak, automatically. You know, when you dive in the water, how you close your eyes just quickly, like that, so that water doesn't get in them, especially when you dive in the ocean where it's salty and stuff. You need to come into a different trance. If going to one where you hold your head like this, I can guarantee you it's not going to feel good after a while. You need to relax before you relax. That's why they call it relax. Otherwise it would just be lax. Now when you think about planning things, the thing is you need to be able to imagine yourself in the environment just so that you get some ideas of places to start and try. And you need to know that all these things that you've learned are inside you, and you trust them, you know. And, you know, it's like whenever I have a trainer seminar, I warn them in the beginning, don't dare walk up in front of an audience with notes. Because, you know, if you do, I'll light them on fire. I carry a flare gun with me everywhere I go. I'm kind of a fire starter by nature. I saw that movie Firestarter. I thought it was a training film. And I saw a film in the Philippines. There was a guy, and this British film crew was doing something out there. It's okay. I know he's there and he's doing it. It's all right. Everything's going to be fine. You know, your skin is starting to look better already. Right? Have you been giving yourself such shit today as you gave yourself yesterday?
Not much.
Not as much. Good. Does it feel better to not give yourself as much?
Yeah.
Then keep doing it. Maybe you can get it down to what shit? Okay, now we're ready. We'll put the bone back in. This is the thing that I thought you needed back in, Lenny. You have the little bone. There's all these little bones in the foot. They're called the metatarsals. Makes it sound like a fascinating god from Greeks or something. And they all sit there and they just attenuate, which means they're just a press fit thing. Sometimes they get pushed up and turned a little bit, which throws your whole foot off. And kind of hard to put back in. It's like a crossword puzzle where the pieces don't quite fit in. You know, it's a crossword puzzle that was cut by somebody who was in 90 with cerebral palsy. You know, but once you get them in, they just kind of click. And the trick is when you want to put one in, you have to move one out of the way and then put that one in and then let go of the other one to pop it in. I didn't learn that in chiropractic college. chiropractic college, they said, x-ray the foot. And I said, if you can't feel what's wrong with it, what the hell good's an x-ray going to do? You go, yeah, look, that foot's real fucked up. If you keep walking on it, you'll end up with a fracture in the bone. There's a great suggestion, don't you think? That's, it's like people say, well, you know, I'm going on a trip next fall. You didn't hear that, Lenny. No tripping for you. Well, some kinds, but not others. Lenny went down to the Amazon and went with these natives, and they take some kind of a bush there, and they take some of the stuff and they boil it down and go into profoundly altered states when they drink it, and which they do powerful healing things. Then he, being an adventuresome guy, bopped down to the Amazon, you know. And I said the runway was clearly there. He could tell because the people were down there with machetes chopping it. And he asked me, he said, would you like to go? And I said, do they have a room service? When I was younger, I did all that stuff of chasing those shaman around. I said, but what I always got tired of is that there was just, you know, they don't live very well. You know, it's like when you ask, where's the restroom? And they point outside, you know. And you go, toilet paper? And they hand you a leaf, you know. You have to be careful. Some of those leaves are not exactly what you think they are. You know. I ended up with a big rash all over my butt from one of them. And the guy told me it's the wrong leaves. I said, thanks a lot. You couldn't tell me that ahead of time. Now, pull your toes back. All right, pull it up. Ankle up. There we go. Now, down. See, now it goes straight. That's the way it's supposed to work. Okay, swing around. Yeah, swing that way, though. There's a wall in the way here. Mm-hmm. There you go. Okay, now, slowly stand up. Put the weight on it slowly, okay? That's right. And then just kind of walk.
While keeping my balance.
Good idea. You may feel somewhat lightheaded, but that's okay.
just a bit, huh?
Mm-hmm. Oh, was I talking about psychedelic things? I'm sorry. I don't know why. My mind just drifted into this thing, and I started thinking about it. Get your hands out of your pockets when you walk. You don't want to throw your balance off. That's right. That's good. That's good. I just wanted to make sure it was working. Let's see. Now it goes heel, toe, heel, toe, heel, toe. We were talking about that at lunch. I did that to my wife when she first got up and started walking. I said, remember all the time that every step you take, you have to go heel, toe, heel, toe. She was walking up and down the hallway practicing going heel, toe, and about 7 months later, you know, we're going down the street because everywhere we go, I go, remember, heel, toe. Suddenly she turned around and she went, oh, I get it. She said, Jesus, how did I miss that?
Oh, well.
And I said, you didn't miss it. That's the point. That's why you're walking down the street.
You done?
Yeah, we're done for now.
I have to finish my job.
Lenny's not too compulsive. It's like he's like me, you know. I go, well, I'm just going to read a few pages of this book, and then as I close the book after the last page, I go, now I need 5 more books. And so he's got a book habit that rivals mine. You know, I've had accountants at the end of the year say to me, and they go, who buys all these books? Nobody could read this many books. And I go, that was just for last week. Here's the rest of the receipts. And they said, you know, it's not good to spend more money than you make. And I said, actually, it's really good if you can get away with it. I mean, because I walk into the bookstore now, and while I'm walking around, they just get crates out in the back, set them up there. They know they're going to need them. This is a fun country to buy books in. You guys have really old books here, which is cool. This country's been around so much longer that you can, of course, the printing press wasn't really invented that long ago. This country was around way before that. Of course, that's when you got invaded by the Normans too. I like that, 1066. I heard all about it because I went to Hastings, and if you're at Hastings, they tell you that over and over and over again. One more person told me about the fucking Battle of Hastings. I was going to gang slap them. I said, I know all about it. Yeah. And so they had horses, and they went to London. Big deal. Caesar had already been there, for Christ's sake. And the Celts beat him back to the gates of fucking Rome. The Celts were nasty, They cheated. They used magic, and then when they finally got the Germans, to break a treaty with them, and then they finally started beating the Celts, they did things like, as they got to them and to capture them, they'd kill themselves, take all the fun out of it. The Jews did that too. They fought that Battle of Masad, and 20,000 Roman soldiers died trying to get up this hill and kill 400 Jews, right? And I would have just gone, well, hey, let's go around the hill, Eventually, they could have just built a fire around it and waited, They would have had to come down eventually, but, the Romans, they have these rules. We must do everything certain ways. And so they kept trying to climb. They built things and finally there was only one way up to this mountain. And they kept going up and getting slaughtered, and they'd go up and get slaughtered. They'd go up and boulders would roll on them. It was just one thing after another. They'd go up and hot oil would come rushing down. And finally, when they finally burst up, they built all the way around it. They literally leveled forests and built these things where they could climb up from every side. And when they went in, they were all dead. Right? And that must have really taken the fun out of conquering, don't you think? You don't get to torture anybody, you don't get to punish anybody, you get there and everybody's fucking dead. Unfortunately, when they counted it, there were more people there. Some of them just fucking disappeared. And then they found in the middle of it that there was this little tiny getaway hole that somebody had gotten away in. Several people had, like the general, of course, whose name was Josephus. And I like the Romans' way of dealing it is they made him a Roman general. That's called quitting, don't you think? That's just fucking giving up. They couldn't beat this guy in any battle. So they finally started giving him awards and giving him money and made him a Roman. And he said, okay, I'll be a Roman, but don't fuck with my people anymore. And they said, trust us. He said, as long as you get rid of your gods, everything will be fine. Because they went and put all of these pagan graven images all over Judea, and the Jews didn't like it at all. And they literally tried to get them to force it, to worship other gods, and the Jews just went, oh, look, we've tried that before. They went into the temple, Solomon's temple, which I think this is really funny, which was filled with riches, absolutely filled, and they knew it, and they wanted the money because they steal everything, these Romans. That's where you guys learned it from. And, well, have you been to the British Museum, man? Some of that stuff's big stuff to steal. I don't know how they ever stole anything that big. The only thing as bad as the British Museum is the Vatican. They have gifts from all over the world. Of course, they gave them to themselves, because that's back when the Pope had armies. He's losing everything now because he can't go and slaughter his way across the world. But one time the Vatican had one of the largest armies in the world. In fact, they had 3 armies. And but then the Vatican split into 2 places, and they had Constantinople and the Vatican. And then, can you imagine this? 2 parts of the Catholic Church, and they each elected a pope and fought a war over which one was the real one. I mean, talk about, having imaginary friends and fighting over who's really got the imaginary friend. I mean, when you think about history, from my point of view, it really does come out slightly different. Here are these 2 people, wearing purple yarmulkes. Think about it, purple yarmulkes and nice white dresses, and arguing over which one of them really can talk to their imaginary friend. And killing thousands and thousands and thousands of people over this. I mean, they finally broke down, and they had 2 Vaticans. They had one in Constantinople, and they had that's the Greek Orthodox Church, which was all over Russia until the Russians went, no religion at all. And goes, we'll have no more religion in this country. And Khrushchev, when he came to the U.S., took off his shoe and pounded on the table and said, we will bury you economically. Guess that didn't work out, huh? because finally, the Cold War was over. Russia lost. They just gave up and said, "Fuck it, we can't build as good of weapons as you." They can't even make an IC chip. You know that? They have no way to make an IC chip. They had to steal them all. And here they had a space program, right? I mean, that's really something, isn't it? That meant they did a lot of thieving. And the U.S. was so sneaky, they set up this big corporation called Omex. And all Omex did was sell stuff to the Russians. And they virtually bankrupt their economy, selling them billions of dollars worth of stuff. But it meant all of their missiles and all of their stuff had chips that we built. Right? That's why their missiles kept going and dropping into the sea next to Finland. Right? And suddenly they thought about it. American chips, missiles going the wrong way. All our money is gone and we have junk. We want a refund. And the way we're going to get it is we're going to take down that wall. We'll give back Germany, some of these other countries. I loved it when they went into Bulgaria, because that country, because the guy running it was a total Nazi. Telling everybody they had to live cheaply, and then he had a secret wall that opened up, and he had champagne and caviar and great paintings. He had actually looted everything that was there. And he actually had babies in orphanages and was selling their blood. I mean, that's getting down to it, don't you think, when you sell blood from babies? I mean, it was just bad. And when right up to the last minute, they had this guy, it was on TV. I love CNN, it's always right there. They had this guy, they broke in, they took him, they put a gun to his head, and he's looking up at them and going, "I'm the president. You can't do this." And they went, and blew his head off on international TV. And I thought, boy, that should be a lesson to people, don't you think? And of course Clinton wasn't watching at that time. He was busy going, "Oh, Monica, this is a beautiful dress, thank you." That's always been my question. Who is wearing the blue dress? Such a bizarre thing. Yes, after every date, I put the dress in a safety deposit box. I would say that's a strange attitude. Maybe you know that next time I went into the bank, I looked at all the other safety deposit boxes and I thought to myself, I wonder how many of them have dresses in there and other odd things. Are there people who save their condoms? Just think, I'm just putting bank records in here and stuff, and, maybe I haven't really thought through all the things I could put in there. And meanwhile, my dog is getting her own safety deposit box. She's going to put her dog toys in there. Anyway, let's see, where was I? So, are you going to keep doing the same thing? Don't duck. It won't hit you like nothing. Because I better get out of the way of this. After all, I wouldn't want any extra good stuff to come into me. What? No?
No, I won't be doing the same thing.
You won't be doing the same thing. So what are you going to do? Don't know. I have a suggestion. In fact, I have lots of suggestions. That's what hypnotists do, Okay. My suggestion is in a couple of minutes, you see, your unconscious is close enough to hear me. And I know it's been listening while you were here. That's right. And there's some things that your unconscious thinks you're making far too much difficulty. And so in a moment, I want you to try and do things because you found ways to fight with yourself. Maybe it's time you started to do something totally different. Don't you think so? Not you, him. The other mind, not that mind, yourself. Now, just before you drop into a deep trance, I want your conscious mind to know everything's going to be okay. But as long as you're going to pull pictures together, instead of pulling together ones which confuse you, perhaps now you can make a great big picture and see yourself trusting yourself. That's right. Because what you're going to do is let your unconscious now take you into a wonderful state, something that feels much more relaxed, something where sensations which are pleasurable seem to come from nowhere. And your unconscious does know where. And it can make them come from here and from there. But while you do that, I want you to see a big picture where you see yourself at this moment, beginning to teach differently. Hear your voice and turn the picture around and pull it over you so that you feel yourself being in a wonderful state. If you're going to communicate with other people and you're going to teach the things that I created, the first rule of thumb is to make sure you go into a state of pleasure. Because without that state, and you have to learn to trust your unconscious so that you can teach other people to trust their unconscious processes. Your ability to understand language without knowing how you do it is the miracle beyond miracles. We don't know how we understand words, it just happens. And it can't happen without a mind and a body. It works in a way that's such that if you line up your mind and you line up your body, well, then you might as well line up the spirit of my work and your own spirit as well. So if you let your consciousness, if you breathe in through your nose and let your consciousness go right down your midline, right down the side of your legs and right to your toes, and then pull it back to your heels. That's right, a bigger breath than that. Take a deep one. That's right, and let it slowly out of your mouth. And while you do, just drift down and let yourself feel good and begin to hear your own voice talking about things that people need to know about. People need to know that they don't have to be so hard on themselves. People need to know that if you talk to yourself in shitty tonality, you'll feel shitty. And if you stop it, you won't. People need to know if they're making pictures of things that are making them confused, that maybe they shouldn't fucking make those pictures. And once they know that, then suddenly the vistas open up. Because once you get rid of fear and loathing in yourself, then what happens is every moment becomes that much more special. It means that your unconscious now can begin to get a hold of that special feeling and begin to spin it inside you. First up and down and around and up your back, around your midline. And the more you breathe, the faster it'll go down right to your toes and up the back of your leg and your spine to the back of your head. And take another breath and do it over and over so that you begin to program yourself. And then think about the times you've really been successful doing the things that you want to do. Your most successful moments, and run through one, then the next, then the next, then the next, and think about the future. Because then the future is going to look brighter. You won't worry so much about what you're going to say when you go to teach or when you go through anything you have to do any day. Because the more the day comes, the more you'll become aware that what it is that makes things easy and makes things fair is for you to let both your conscious and your unconscious now begin to learn in the simple way. Because you can struggle with things, and struggle with things, and struggle with things. You can try and make things complicated, but if on the other mind, not that mind, the other mind, you realize that the automatic processes inside your mind understand more completely. That part of you that chemically converses sound and turns it into words inside your mind, to take all the meanings that you've learned from this time, from that time, and turn them around so that you can do new things.